Okay, I've been reminded by Daryl that I'm late. So the good news is you're not going to get out late. I know. I do pick on Daryl. I do, and I shouldn't, but I know he loves me, and I know he'll forgive me. So, and most of the things are true that I say about Daryl. So today we're going to talk about something that I sincerely need a mirror in front of me. Kenny, can you hear me back there? Daryl said you need to turn me up a little bit. Okay, just a little bit, go up. And so today I need a mirror in front of me. Okay, so I'm talking to myself about this. If anybody else listens or catches on, then that's okay. But it's me that I'm talking about. We all have things in our lives that we're weak on. And this is one of my weakest things in my life. And the name of the lesson is Words That Give Life. And as part of our lesson today is we're going to talk a lot about words. Words that we say to other people, words that we say to each other here at this church. Sometimes we are brutally honest with ourselves sometimes. Okay, a lot of times we're not. But as the older that I have gotten through the years, I'm starting to get brutally honest with myself about what we're going to talk today about. Through my life, the biggest thing that's got me in trouble, and I mean this, is my mouth. Okay, I've had more trouble in my life from things that I have said. And that's some of the words we're going to study about today. I've never had a problem drinking. I don't do the don't do stuff, okay? I don't smoke, don't cuss, don't drink. I don't do any of that stuff. And it's easy for me because I don't want to do that. But my mouth has got me in so much trouble. And I'm talking about my whole life. And it has nothing to do with lying, okay? Nothing to do with lying. My mouth has said things that are true that I shouldn't have said. That should not have been spoken about someone or something in front of someone. So today we're going to talk, we're going to read some Proverbs and some other scriptures in the New Testament. But that's why I said I need a mirror in front of me. If I had taken this seriously and been taught this when I was a teenager, my life would have been better. I've recently realized that just because something needs to stop or someone needs not to do this, the fact that I say something about that to them, it doesn't make a difference. That I do that if we'll talk about Daryl again. If Daryl does something, and I say, look at Daryl, he's doing this, I'm going to go say something to him. The fact that I say something to him, that's really for me, and that's what I've come to realize is I feel that I've got to say something to Daryl, and when it's over with, what difference would it make if I'd kept my mouth shut? Because I shouldn't have said that. Now, was it true? Absolutely, it was true. But Daryl knows what he's doing, and it doesn't make a difference. I'm only doing it for myself. And that's what I've done for 50 years, is said things in situations that I wish I hadn't have said. In words, as you well know, there's a few things that happen in this life that you can never, ever change. And Daryl, what is one thing that you can't change?
Spoken words.
Spoken words. You cannot get them back. I could go to Daryl and I could ask him for forgiveness for the things that I told Daryl, the things that I said. Would Daryl forgive me? Yes. Knowing Daryl the way I know him, he would forgive me. But does he have the human capacity to forget it? I don't. I don't have that. I mean, as much as I want to, I cannot forget things that people say. And so once you get those words out, they're out there. And I've done that a lot. If you have your Bibles, turn to Proverbs chapter 10. Proverbs chapter 10. And I'm going to be reading from verse 11 through 21. 11. The mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. So he's talking about both sides here. Your spoken word, your verbiage, can be something that's good. He calls it a fountain of life. But then he gives us a flip side. The mouth of the wicked conceals violence. Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all offenses. We think about this world that we live in, and when you see the national news and the media, you see how much hate is in the United States right now. It's all over the world, but if you look at us, we got so much hate. And I don't care which side of the fence you're on, it seems like everybody hates everybody. And David says hatred stirs up strife. Now, we know there's strife in the world. Let me ask you this question. Have we ever had strife in the church? Okay. Dean said, oh yeah. And we have. And Daryl said, sadly. And it shouldn't be that way. There's some passages in the New Testament that they'll say something, and I can't remember if it's Paul or whoever, and they say, it ought not to be this way. Well, we shouldn't have strife in the church. What causes the majority of the strife in the church? What causes it? People's opinions. And how do we know people's opinions? They tell you, or they tell somebody else, your mouth, and causes strife. And here we're supposed to come together to worship together, to edify each other, to encourage each other. And throughout my life, I've seen, Michelle and I go home and we talk about people. There again, those words that I shouldn't say. But no, you have strife in the church. And it ought not be. Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all offenses. So David's not saying, well, there's never anything that's going to be bad. There's never anything that somebody says that's going to hurt your feelings. What it says here, if love exists, it covers all offenses. On the lips of him who has understanding, wisdom is found, but a rod is for the back of him who lacks sense. Okay, when I think about a rod on my back, I think about my mother, especially my dad, whipping me when I was a kid. Not that I didn't deserve it, but I think about that. And God says that that's what you need. That's what should happen. You should have disciplined or be disciplined if you're not smart enough to keep your mouth shut. 14, what happens when you do say something good? The wise lay up knowledge, but the mouth of a fool brings ruin near. So once again, he's giving us these two options in each verse. If you're wise, you're going to lay up knowledge. If I had been wise all my life, there's so many things that I wouldn't have said. You know, as a lawyer, sometimes I use that as a crutch. I'm taught to argue. I'm taught how to win. I'm taught how to prove my point. And sometimes that has gotten away from me. And if I had been wiser, I wouldn't have said certain things. Now, once again, Daryl, it's things that were true that I said. But after I said them, and after I got home, I shouldn't have said that. I did a case one time, and sometimes in your closing arguments, I mean, you've got to get forceful. You've got to drive your point home. And I did a case one time, and some cases were better than other cases, and some cases the evidence allows you to be better. And this case was a real good case for me to get up and argue. And I got up, and I thought I did such a good job. And I mean, I just cut them off at the neck, okay? And I sat down, and I didn't think much about it then. And I got home that night. And I don't mind telling you this. I got home that night, and I convicted him, okay? And he went to prison. But I got home that night, and I actually cried because I got to thinking about what I said. And I didn't say anything wrong. Everything I said was true. But it's how I said it. And I actually, I just couldn't emotionally handle it. Now, I'm talking about, it's when I was an assistant DA. So it was sometime from 1987 to 1997. It's somewhere in the early 90s. Now, think about how long that was ago. It still bothers me to this day, the words that I said. And Daryl, you're right. You can't get them back. And I know the things I said hurt this person. And it wasn't a crime against anybody. It was an escape. He escaped from Just Done, okay? Didn't hurt anybody while he was out. So it wasn't a victim crime. But I lit him up in my closing argument, and he got 20 years is what he got. For escaping, because he had so many convictions. That's the minimum that he could have. So that's a lesson for me to you, that I've said things that I didn't need to say in order to get the same result. Okay? Verse 15, a rich man's wealth is his strong city. The poverty of the poor is their ruin. The wage of the righteous leads to life, and the gain of the wicked to sin. Whoever heeds instruction is on the path to life, but he who rejects reproof leads others astray. Now, we're going to get back to some words here. The one who conceals hatred has lying lips. So if you have hate in your heart, what might you do when you speak? How is your speech? Is it truthful or is it maybe lying? It says the one who conceals hatred has lying lips. And so that's part of what we're going to talk about today, is not just things that we say that are hateful, that are hurtful, but also that are dishonest. We lie with our words. Whoever utters slander is a fool. Okay, a while ago I was talking about the things that you say that are true, that we shouldn't say. Well, this takes it another step. Whoever utters slander is a fool. Now, we're not allowed to call people fools. The Bible tells us, call no man a fool, okay? But God knows the heart. And so God can call somebody a fool. And in this 18, the last part of it says, and whoever utters slander is a fool. I bet you all know how easy it is to slander somebody. That comes so easy. It's so easy to talk about somebody. Do you know, I go back to, I use a lot of examples sometimes of the law. There's all kinds of reasons to sue somebody. One reason, it's called defamation of character. And slander is another word or another description of that. When you slander someone, you talk about somebody with something that's not true. And it's even so important in the nation that we've been raised in, that they put it in the books. They put it in the statutes that you cannot slander or defame someone. If you do, then there's a cause of action in a civil court saying you slandered somebody, you defamed somebody for saying something that was not true, and as a result, society's going to punish you for saying something that's bad about somebody. Because usually when you say something that's bad about something, it doesn't just hurt for that moment. It can destroy your life. Now, I'm going to tell you another story that happened last year. And my law partner, actually he's the lawyer that owns the practice. I just work there. And I want to tell you ahead of time so you won't think anything about me, okay? I did not get one penny of this. I'd like to say I did, but it wasn't my case, and I didn't get one penny of this. There was somebody that said something in Oklahoma City on the radio, and it was about, there was a team, it was the playoffs, there was a team that took a knee on the national anthem. And it was a particular race of people that took that knee. And the two announcers thought that their microphone was what? Off. And it was hot. Now, one of the guys didn't say anything. One of the guys, the same guy, was not the one in charge. He was just sitting there. The guy that was in charge of the broadcasting the game, he made a comment about them kneeling, and he also made a comment about their race. And when he made that comment, he used the worst term, the worst word that you could use about their race. Well, that went out everywhere, okay? Now, that's the preface, that's the background story. What happened is the newspaper, and I never know if I'm going to say it right or not, Gannett or Gannett, I don't know how you say that. They grabbed it. I mean, now I'm talking in minutes. They grabbed it and put it in their headlines and on their internet, and then it got on the radio. It just went wild. But what they said was, It was this guy that said that word. It was this guy that slandered that team. And it wasn't. This guy didn't do anything. Well, he got death threats. He lost his job as a teacher. And I could go on and on, but you see what I mean. He got charged, and it's not a crime. I keep saying charged. It's a civil deal. He got accused of that falsely. So he comes to our office and we sue, and it takes 2 or 3 years because you're suing a national newspaper and stuff. My law firm, where I work, this is Muskogee County Courthouse, $25 million. $25 million for slander. Now, that's why I said I didn't get a penny of that, so don't think, well, Larry's got a lot of money. No, I don't have anything. But that's how important that it can be, how much you can hurt someone. 25 million is what the jury thought that this poor guy deserved because of what happened to him in his life. And also, the biggest majority of that was punishment. I think he got $5 million for damages, and they gave him $20 million to punish Gannett. Because you had to really, they're a $1 billion industry. So really 25 million is not much. But the jury says, I want to punish them for slander, for defamation. You got a poor little guy here and look how big you are. Well, God tells us, don't slander people. It hurts when somebody slanders you. And for the rest of this guy, there's people that will think, well, he did it. I had a lot older cousin than I was, and he was a principal down at Keota. And I think Jerry Walker will understand this, being in the business he's in all these years. There was a high school girl that came out and said, this principal touched me. And, of course, the newspapers got it, and Muskogee Phoenix put it on the top of the page, front page, that big. Okay? And it wasn't true. 2 weeks later, she comes forward and she says, I lied. I lied about it. I got disciplined by him, and I was mad at him. And I knew this would hurt him. And it did. 2 weeks later, Muskogee Phoenix came out, and they had a little bitty article on the third page where she had recanted that. Okay, to this day, people still, it's got to the point to where it's really friends of his that jab him about it. But the point is, when you slander somebody, it hurts. And there's pains and there's damage that never, ever goes away. And if y'all have any thoughts, just jump in there. When words are many, transgression is not lacking, but whoever restrains his lips is prudent. I'd love to be called prudent by God, wouldn't you? The tongue of the righteous is choice silver. Once again, we've got God saying, hey, I'm going to give you an example. This precious metal, I'm going to compare your tongue to that. The heart of the wicked is of little worth. 21, the lips of the righteous feed many, but fools die for the lack of sense. Okay, turn your Bible over to chapter 15, or turn it back, or wherever, over to 15. You know, when you get old, your thumbs get dry, and I just saw somebody lick their thumbs there behind you, Daryl. 15, verses 1 through 4. As a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. The tongue of the wise commends knowledge, but the mouths of fools pour out folly. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, keeping watch on the evil and the good. A gentle tongue is the tree of life, but the perverseness in it breaks the spirit. So once again, it talks about the good things that we say can turn away wrath. When somebody's upset, and they're just, full of wrath. It says maybe if you speak good things, it will turn that away. It will dissolve wrath, okay? 18, verse 21. 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits. I said something one time when I was in the 10th grade. I said something about another student, and it wasn't any bad. It wasn't anything bad, but it was kind of bad. Okay, and in between classes, he broke my jaw. Okay, so let me read that again there. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. I learned right then, I got to be careful what I say about people because there could be bad results that come. And that's what God says, death and life. What kind of death is he talking about? Eternal death maybe? Life, eternal life. So remember that. Okay, now we're going to go to Ephesians. Ephesians, and I know I'm rushing, but we don't have a whole lot of time. Ephesians 4. Well, my fingers are... Does anyone have Ephesians 4 yet? Okay, Daryl, read Ephesians 4:29.
Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as it fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear.
Okay, basically, don't let anything bad come out of your mouth. Who's in control of your mouth? You are. And so God is telling us, because you're in control, control it. Don't let anything bad come out of that mouth. Now, that's easier said than done. And I've let bad things come out of my mouth, and I've let bad things come out of my mouth, and I've gone to those people and apologized. Now, that's in my later years. I never did that when I was young. But in my later years, I've come to realize that I shouldn't do those things. And I have actually apologized to people for things that I've said. I was in a different kind of frame of mind. I shouldn't have said it. And that's the best you can do. You can't take those words back, but you can go apologize. And I've done that because of things that I've said. Psalm 141:3. Set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips. See, David was smart enough to say, God, I need some help on this deal. I know, I'm smart enough to know that I can't control this. So if you would, God, guard my lips, guard my mouth, guard the words that I say. I need help on this. Keep watch over the door of my lips. The older I get, the more I realize if I keep my mouth shut, I don't have to worry about what I've said. If I keep my mouth shut. I saw a deal, it was on a TV. It was a lawyer show just this week. It's an older show, but I've been watching the series. And you may have seen this, there's a big bass on the wall. And it's on a wood backing or whatever, and it's got a big brass plate there underneath that bass. And I was trying to, it had something on it, and I was trying to see what it was. I thought it was going to be, 21 pounds. And, finally the camera got close enough for me to see that. Okay, now listen real close here. Underneath that bass, you've seen those mounts where the bass, they have their mouth like that, great big old bass. Underneath that bass, it said, if I had kept my mouth shut, I wouldn't be here. Okay? And I saw that and I thought, that is so true. If I'd have kept my mouth shut, throughout my life, I would not have found myself in situations. The theme today is that words have real power. They're so powerful to heal and to harm. The key verse in Proverbs, that 15:1 that we read a while ago, that's our key verse. Now, I'm going to say this, and I want you to listen to me up front, because I'm not going to add to the Bible, okay? You can't add anything to the Bible. There are scholars from way back, and some scholars believe that Cain killed Abel with a rock, okay? I can't find where it says Cain killed Abel with a rock. Some scholars believe that. But for today, I want to make kind of an example. The rock in the hands of Cain killed Abel. The rock in the hands of David killed Goliath. It wasn't the rock, it was these two people's hearts. So I want to kind of use that as an example. Our speech. This speech can hurt somebody, and this speech can help, as David helped the Israelites. Luke 6:45. Boy, this is one of the most famous verses. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So when you say something to me, I know where that's coming from. You got vocal cords, and you got a tongue, and everything that forms those words. Those words start down here and they come up. What we say is a direct expression of our hearts. We're not a doctor, we don't have an x-ray, but we can see in your hearts. Good thoughts lead to good speech, while negative thoughts lead to negative speech. And that's just, if you associate with good people, you're going to have good friends and good people. If you associate with bad people, that's how you're going to be. Same way with our speech. Matthew 12:34b, for out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. Verse 36 says, I tell you, on the day of judgment, boy, this has always worried me. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. Verse 37, for by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. Now, that's as straight as he can get with us. And it says someday we're going to give an account for that. I can look back, like I said, being brutally honest with yourself, I can look back and say some of the things that I've said in my life condemn me. Some of the things I may have said in church in my life condemn me. Maybe they were true, maybe they were not on purpose, maybe they weren't true, I just didn't know it, and I was slandering someone. But, Proverbs tells us, it says, hey, let's talk about your tongue. Let's talk about your heart that's associated with that tongue. Let me tell you, as God, I'm looking at that. I'm not looking at you going to church and putting money in the plate, saying a prayer, listening to the preacher. That's all good stuff. But there's other things that you do individually that I'm concerned about. And I'm telling you that if you will take care of your words, your life is going to be so much wonderful. It's going to be wonderful two places. It's going to be wonderful because here on earth, you're going to have a better life. If I'd have kept my mouth shut in the 10th grade, I would have never, I think that's the only broken bones that I had in my life. If I'd have kept my mouth shut in the 10th grade, I would not have had a broken jaw, and I would not have had my teeth wired together for 6 weeks They were wired together. So there is some truth to this. Turn your Bibles over to James chapter 3. I've got a relatively new Bible. My other Bible came apart, and I just cannot get the pages to do what I want them to do. Does anybody have James chapter 3? Okay, read it real good and loud.
All of it?
Yeah, I'm stalling for time. No, I'm sorry. James 3 through 10. Yes.
If we put bits into the mouths of horses so that they obey us, we guide their whole bodies as well. Look at the ships also. Though they are so large and are driven by strong wind, they are guided by a very small rudder, wherever the will of the pilot directs. So also the tongue is a small member, yet it's boast of great things. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire. And the tongue is a fire, a world of unrighteousness. The tongue is set among our members, staining the whole body, setting on fire the entire course of life, and setting on fire by hell. For every kind of beast and bird, reptile, and sea creature can be tamed and has been tamed by mankind. But no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil, full of deadly poison. With it we bless our Lord and our Father, and with it we curse people who are made in the likeness of God. From the same mouth come blessing and cursing. My brothers, these things ought to not be so.
Okay, they said deadly poison. Your mouth can have some poison in it, which we know comes from the heart. He gives an example of a horse, and we know how strong a horse is. And he's guided because of the bits in the mouth. You can direct him. A ship with a rudder. You got a gigantic ship, and they've got a little rudder back here. But look at what that little rudder can do. Look at what that tongue can do to your life. Now, before I comment on that forest fire, I want to give you a deal. I just happened to see it this week. They said a large tree can make 1 million matches. Okay? It only takes one match to burn the whole forest down. So all the good that this big tree did in providing matches, one match can tear down everything. Our words, one word, one phrase can hurt us so bad. That's the bell. Is that the first bell? Second bell. Okay. See, I'm getting, my fingers not only not good, my ears not good either. Listen, thank you so much for coming today. And I'm going to try to watch my tongue this week, okay? And Michelle's too. I'm going to watch Michelle's too.